Today's guest is Elizabeth Henson. And Elizabeth, we figured out at the end of the interview that she is the same age as my oldest daughter. So she's a little bit younger than a lot of my guests, but I wanted to have her on and talk about her expertise, which is she knows a lot about growing connected communities, specifically on Facebook. I mean, she knows about growing connected communities on different platforms, but we talk mostly about Facebook. So this is a great episode for, I say anybody, because you don't have to have a business to want to grow connected community. You can just have an interest. You can just be passionate about something. We talk about the different things that you can do with Facebook groups. I shared about one that I had created based on the interest I had, or still have, but I don't have a Facebook group anymore. But and then after we finished recording, she even brought up the fact that if you're going through like a difficult period of loss, you're grieving over something, maybe you lost a loved one, a parent, a child, all different kinds of topics. And so I think it might plant a seed for you about what you want to do in terms of connecting with like-minded people this year. And maybe it will grow into some kind of business related thing. But if it doesn't, you could meet some amazing people. We do not live in a world anymore where you can only meet the people that you are in geographical surroundings with. You can meet people that live across the world. As long as you can speak the same language, then there it is. I love the fact that the internet has given us this gift of connection with people in different societies, different cultures, different locales, and it just makes everything there are probably not as many people like me in my little neighborhood that I live in, but I can find more people like me if I spread my wings and go out virtually into the world. And so those people with the interests that you have are there. And so it's just a matter of you maybe starting something that attracts them. And then you can start having amazing conversations about the things that you love with these people. So that's what this is really about. So let your mind kind of create something wonderful and that you might want to begin, and let this episode be the impetus for that. So let's get on with the interview with Elizabeth now. Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives. Today's guest is Elizabeth Henson. And Elizabeth she's one of many things, but one of the things that I wanted her to come on the episode and talk about was her deep knowledge of Facebook groups and how you can use Facebook groups not only in growing a business organically without having to pay for ads. A lot of people think you have to pay to play, but Facebook groups are a really great way to do that. But there is a trick to them. And so Elizabeth's going to share that. But I also think Facebook groups are a great way. I know a lot of people have left Facebook because of the political climate, but you can create the climate you want on Facebook. And so what I love about what you can do with Facebook groups is meet people that have the same interests as you and grow a community of just like-minded people that share the same things that they can talk about and discuss. And one of the Facebook groups I'm in that I really like, it's the Loudoun County Housewives.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The Loudoun County Housewives. And I don't live in Loudoun County anymore. I used to, but I moved away from Loudoun County about 15, I guess when I got married, like 12 or 13 years ago. But I love it because I still feel connected to the community, and they really they ask questions. A lot of younger moms are in there. My kids are in there now that they have kids of their own. So they're the ones that actually turned me on to it. But it's just a variety of people, different people. And we're mostly talking about how we can be better parents, what we can do with our kids. And I just like it. So welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Oh my gosh, yeah, we can go so many different routes talking about Facebook groups, but I love that that one's your favorite because they don't always have to be business.
Yes. Yes. So tell me how you ended up like falling into the kind of the Facebook groups expert area.
Yeah, so it's kind of a twisty turny journey, but here's the Cliff Notes version. I was a high school art teacher and I quit teaching to be a full-time photographer, and then very quickly kind of fell into teaching other photographers, which led to teaching other business owners how to start and run a business. And I kind of landed in business coaching, but as you know, like you can't really just be a business coach. It's really hard. It's very general. So I decided like, okay, well, my superpower in my business coaching is leadership and community building. So I really started like labeling myself as like this expert community builder. And then that still wasn't quite specific enough because people don't wake up in the morning saying, you know, I really need better community building skills and leadership skills. But what they were waking up in the morning and saying is like, my Facebook group isn't engaged, or how do I monetize my Facebook group? Or how do I, get people to interact with me on Circle or Mighty Networks or whatever it might be. And I had been at the time exploring community management for 7 and 8 figure companies. And I realized that my leadership and community building superpowers could be used in this very niche way of helping these larger businesses with their community management, which then led me to helping all types of business owners start and grow and scale Facebook groups. So
Yes.
I'm not your traditional.
So you, what I love is that you noticed that there was a problem that you could help solve.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you went about problem solving for people, because that's what people want really is, help me solve my problem. And instead of trying to force, like, this is what I think they need.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's kind of marketing wizardry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the lack of engagement is kind of their headache that I can solve, right? But what makes me different than every other person that's teaching Facebook groups is I'm not like, here's how you get 20,000 members. It's like, no, like, here's how you can actually be the best leader that you can possibly be for 100 members and get it to grow, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. I had a Facebook group early on when I started my business, when I launched my group coaching program as I launched it, and I said, oh, I'll do a Facebook group. And it grew very quickly. And it was like 1,200 people, but 0 engagement. So what is interesting, and I wish I knew you at the time because I ended up giving up on it, but it was like, I would rather have 100 super engaged people than 1,200 disengaged people.
Absolutely.
And they probably needed, what I was offering, because that's how they ended up getting into the group. I mean, it was a free community with a theme, but which would, I could help them with. And it just was, and what I ended up doing is I let them lead. And I had a few people in the group that started posting, and it was almost like, I think I was going to be gone for a week.
Yeah.
And I think I posted in there that, hey, I'm not going to be available to post. And who would like to do that? Can you keep it going? And it was so funny because then it started getting more lively.
Yeah. They just kind of started self-interacting. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. It's like it's almost like, when you let your kids, like, you want to help them and you want to do their homework for them, and then they just like, okay, you're going to do it for me, so I'll just like let you do it. But then like, you're like, I'm not doing it anymore, you're on your own, you got to do it. And then they step up to the plate and do it. It was very similar to that.
Yeah, exactly. But I love what you said about you'd rather have a smaller group, because one of the questions I always get asked, and what I went through with my group is, do I rebrand an old group or do I start a new group from scratch? And, when I started my group about groups, I was like, oh my God, like, people are going to expect me to have a big group because I'm the Facebook group expert. But I decided I was going to start a new group and be very, very specific. And it's the best thing I could have done because it's very interactive and engaged. But most importantly, everyone that's in there has raised their hand, like, I want to be here. And it's so much better to have a small group of people that are raising their hand than a large group of people who are just there because they joined 4 years ago and you were talking about something different.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first started business. So my group coaching program was my second online business. My first online business was I was Beachbody coach. So I was doing network marketing. And I remember when I started, I didn't even know how to create a Facebook group. I didn't even know, like, I was never even in a Facebook group. I was like newbie, knew nothing. And so, yeah. So what would you say to somebody who like doesn't have a Facebook group and would like to connect with like-minded people? Just a general goal of, I would love to meet people. And that's what Facebook can do, is like, we can meet people that we would never meet in our own neighborhood. And with COVID, obviously, it's kind of nice to have that.
Yeah, I mean, I
We
have
don't want to go
so
out.
many like real life friends now that I originally met on Facebook via Facebook groups, right? Like it doesn't really happen on Facebook, just on Facebook, but it's inside the groups. And someone who's never really joined a group or interacted in a group, just go to the search bar, like you would search for someone that you're stalking, right? And then you can scroll down and click groups. And there are groups about everything. So if you're having like a health thing, or you sprained your ankle or broke your wrist, or you're going through a divorce, or you want to have better skin, like you can search whatever it is and you'll find a group, and there'll be everyone in that group talking about that same topic. And it's such a great way to connect. Just like you said, the Real Housewives of Loudon. I'm in a like mommy wood group. There's breastfeeding groups. I mean, anything that you could possibly think of. And if you can't find it, you could be the person to create it.
Yeah. So I created a group once and I have an interest of reality shows. And I used to like hide it because I thought there's something wrong with me. So, and I really can't be honest about this, because like, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be like doing personal development and reading all about how you can better yourself.
Oh my
I guess
gosh.
it's better than watching news, but I do not watch the like Kardashians or the people throwing stuff at like their husbands, that soon to be ex-husbands. I watch the ones that are, to me, fascinating about like human dynamics, like Survivor. Like you get put in these places that you just have to, like, your real personality comes out, and it's like, who are you really when you're put in this situation? And like The Amazing Race, where they're going around the world and they're in stressful situations, and then they start like getting mad at each other. In fact, I remember there was this couple, and it was like he was the meanest man, and I thought, there's no way they're going to stay married after the show. And do you know that they came back like years later, like 6 or 7 years later? He was completely transformed, and they ended up winning the show. So here they were, like, he was so mean to her and unsupportive, and of course they're not going to succeed when that dynamic. And then he said it was such a wake-up call to see himself. So I love these shows because I think it's the coach in me. Before I even was a coach, I was attracted to these shows because it's just the human dynamic and the social thing. And so I created, during one of the Survivor like seasons, I created a Facebook group so we could chit chat about what's happening on the season. So like TV shows, if you like a TV show or a series, then it's fun to interact with people and share what's happening, I think.
Oh my gosh, one of my entrepreneur friends created a group called TV Junkies, and I was like, well, like, how are you going to monetize it? What are you going to do with it? She was like, no girl, we're just talking about TV. And I was like, okay. And so I kind of joined and like kind of peeked around a little bit, and then I went and watched a show, and I was like, this is amazing, I can go talk about it.
Yes, because we're such an interactive world now with like consumables and on demand and stuff. And so, yeah, I love how you can find these other people and in these little in these little groups. And you never know where they'll lead. I love that. So you like also how it kind of just evolved. It wasn't the intent you started with, but you just kept like wanting to help people essentially. and then kind of figuring out a way that it evolved to what it is. And who knows where it will evolve to next. So I love that kind of like peeling back and continuing to learn about what works and what doesn't work. And plus, like, the technology world's always changing. You know, we didn't have reels on Instagram a year ago, and that's a whole thing now.
Oh my gosh. I know. I kind of miss the days of like just Instagram stories. Just stories in your feed. That's it. Now there's like all these other things. Oh my goodness.
So how do you get engagement? So say somebody who is listening has a Facebook group and it's like dead city. Like they can, no matter what they do, they can't get anybody to comment on their live streams or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. So the trick with Facebook groups is it's all about conversations. And people tend to think like, oh, I'm just going to post and talk about this. And they write a paragraph. And then they're upset that nobody's responded to their paragraph. When really what Facebook groups love is just like one sentence or less. Like 80% of our content in a Facebook group can be one sentence or less, even better if it's a question. So the other day I noticed my group, like the engagement was down a little bit. And I was like, okay, I want to post something today, but they really just need a question. So I said, snow, love it or hate it. Boom. Like it's that simple. And of course, we want to ask things that help us get to know our audience better. But any piece of content that worked on Instagram or on a blog, just take that piece of content and pull out one question, right? So if you're writing a article or an Instagram post about like, here's 3 ways to, write your content in a week, or here's 3 ways to get better skin. Instead of that, just say like, who wakes up in the morning and has problems with their skin, or, dumb it down to one question and you'll get the engagement that you're looking for. It's just that people are in Facebook groups because they want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to insert their opinions. They're not really there to consume. And the consumption actually does happen, but it's in the comment section. So it could be that easy yes or no question, or what's one thing you wanted to do last week that you didn't get done, and just let the magic happen and then help them in the comment section versus like in the posting section. But that's really it. It's that simple. And then I do think having a variety, so like using those big ugly text boxes, GIFs, picture video of yourself. And then
I love that
really
what they did, what Facebook did by creating those easy, like the kind of so easy to do a text. Nobody, like, you look at text and it's just the regular text. It never stands out. But when you can make colors around it so simply. Now there is a text limit, I think, with that. So wordy people have to learn how to shortcut, which is actually a good thing, right?
It's a good thing. Yep. And there is a workaround. There's a way to do longer form inside the big ugly text boxes. But Facebook loves the big ugly text boxes. And like that actually helps us because then we don't have to create branded content for our Facebook group. And I think a little bit of branded content is great, like the same kind of stuff that you would do on Instagram, like your colors or your fonts or whatever. Sure, throw that in every now and then. But Facebook groups really just love those big text boxes. Just get the conversation started. You're not there to teach them everything. You're just there to start the conversation.
Yeah. And don't ask anything that they really have to think a lot about.
Yes.
So, and also I think the polls, because there's a little polls feature, if you're actually saying this, or this, like which is your favorite, this, or this, then it's super easy because all they have to do is pick one.
Yeah, the polls are great. People love sharing GIFs, so it's like share how your Monday morning's going in a GIF. People love that kind of stuff. They just want opportunities to kind of insert their own opinions, whether it's about business, politics, motherhood. They just want to be able to jump right in.
Yeah. So can you speak to consistency? Because I think sometimes people like kind of post and then run, or post just like check that off the list. And so I think there's 2 things. I think number one, like posting is just the beginning of, what your responsibility is. If you have a Facebook group, you have to continue to like engage in those people that are making the comments, because it's like, asking somebody a question and then not waiting for their answer, like, it's like going and like looking, it's just for somebody else in the room. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then just like, if you do things at regular times, so like my example of, connecting over a show, for example, these shows have air times. And so that helps like this consistency with, oh, okay, the show just ended. Let's talk about the show. So how can you create that kind of like regular, like expectation of, oh, this is when she does this, or this is when, she'll ask a question. So tell me about how you think consistency is useful, or how somebody can use that to help with engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more we are in the group, the better, obviously. But I also am kind of a proponent of like, let's build a content like system that works for you. And the audience, the group members, they're gonna be conditioned to whatever you kind of show them or tell them is gonna happen. And I feel like that kind of boils down to like managing expectations, right? Like I don't post everything at a certain time every day, but I do show up in my group Monday through Friday, and they know that. And they know I'm going to go live on Friday. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm just going to pop on live around lunchtime. And I did a lot of that knowing, okay, to get the best engagement possible, I need to be really loud about this. But I'm like, I want this group to work for me and feel light and easy for me. So I'm just going to be really consistent in the fact that I'm showing up Monday through Thursday with a question, a poll, like whatever it might be that takes me 5 minutes or less. And then I'm going to go live every Friday. And that's it. That's really the amount of thought that I put into it. And when people ask questions, great. I let the group answer. Sometimes I answer. I always invite them to circle back, go try something, circle back, let us know how it goes. But, I've had groups where I hardly show up at all. I have a group for my paid group that I'm like, this is not a content-based group, but I'm here if you need me. We will meet every Monday. But other than that, this group's for y'all, right? But it's just managing those expectations and letting them know what they can expect and being able to stick with that. It doesn't have to be like, you have to be in there 7 days a week. Do it 1 day a week, 3 days a week. That's on you, but just you manage the expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you tell people about your Facebook group? Like say, okay, I am going to start a Facebook group because I want to connect with like-minded people, and however way you want to do that. How do you create it? Super easy to create it. And I would just say, Google how to create a Facebook group, because it's super, like everything is like step 1, step 2, step 3. You can, and plus there's YouTube videos that explain it. But how do you, tell people about it? How do you fill up your group, or how do you start to get people in your group so you can engage with them?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it's going to be really easy in the beginning because you just share about it on your personal Facebook page, right? You can just say, hey, I created a group about skincare. If you're interested, here's the link. And that'll work in the beginning, but then eventually you'll be fighting the algorithm and it'll be the same people seeing it. So, there's a couple of different ways. If you're just creating a group for fun, then just continue to talk about it. Just continue to talk about it, tag your friends, get them talking about it. If this is a group for business, then I highly recommend creating like a freebie or a downloadable or something that you can build your email list around to go with it. So that like, okay, this week I'm going to talk about my freebie, which also invites people to the group. And then next week I'm going to talk about the group, which also sends people to the freebie. And you kind of have more ways to share about taking them on the same journey. But at the end of the day, you're going to stop getting new members if you stop talking about it. So it's just talking about it, creating an experience where all the members are talking about it, reminding them to invite their friends. There's a lot of different things that you can do to keep that alive. But I just tell people it's all about repetition. So figure out what works, and then don't forget to repeat.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Referrals, because if people are in the group and they're enjoying it, they want to tell their friends. And so yeah. And it's a lot easier sell when somebody says, hey, I'm in this group, you want to join? And there's no like strings attached. So one thing that I found whenever I do any kind of a lot of times when I'm doing a launch, I'll do a Facebook group. And that's where like the training happens. And so one thing that I found is like when people are excited to like just take a little screenshot or just make a little comment and put it in your social media or do a story about it. And you can do it totally anonymous. So, that's what I super encourage, because people might not want their information that they're sharing in a group to be public, but you can just like, smudge out their name so nobody knows who said it. But just like that shows that they're enjoying themselves in their Facebook group. And people are like, well, what's that? And you can always be talking. We can never talk about something too much as long as we're making it interesting, right?
Yeah. And I call those like screenshot worthy moments. And my freebie has like how to get screenshot worthy moments in your group. And yeah, that way you're just constantly pulling great things that people are saying, transformations that they're having, wins. I mean, just asking your group to share wins. They might say something that you've helped them with and you've got a screenshot worthy moment. But yeah, I always love that. What is it, like capture instead of request or something like that? So instead of like always constantly asking people to say nice things, just capture the nice things that they're doing and saying.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who's like a consumer of a Facebook group? Because I think sometimes it's hard to like find stuff in Facebook groups and hard to keep up with Facebook groups. My daughter told me one day, "Oh, mom, if you go into a Facebook group, there's a little blue vertical thing on the side of a post that it's there if you haven't seen that post." And I was like, really? I don't even know if they have it anymore. But yeah, it was like a visual where you could scroll down through the news feed in the post.
Yeah,
In
and
the
see
group,
where you left off.
and you could see like what you hadn't seen. Facebook like knew visually could to do that. So what it, because it pops up like the most recently engaged with post, right?
Yeah.
So if you do a post a week ago and then somebody comments on it today, it's going to roll up to the top of the, so do you just tell, like suggest people like as a consumer, just scroll down and see things that you haven't seen, turn on your notifications? A lot of people don't know how to do that.
Yeah, so there's a little toggle now where you can choose whether you want to see the most recent engaged or the most recent time. And so if you
Oh,
toggle, I know it's really small, it's kind of obnoxious how hard it is to see, but it's right there, but we scroll by it all the time. But you can do like most recent or most engaged. So if you do the most recent, then you're going to get the old school that I love, Facebook, where you just everything's chronological. So you can scroll down and you can kind of see what's recent. But a lot of times too, like Facebook group, people are using the topics and they're just hashtags, but they get labeled as topics. And I always, every week, I'm saying at least once to my new members, like, this is the great place to start if you're new here. And I just hyperlink them to that topics tab because then they can see like a library of my Facebook Lives, 5-minute action tips, like deeper dive discussions. And it's almost like a table of contents. But
yeah. So learning focused, you can categorize stuff.
yeah, but the consumer's not going to know that unless the moderator, the admin is like reminding them. So like if I was just a consumer going into a group for the first time, I'm just going to be doing that quick like scroll over, like, do I belong here? What are people saying? What's going on? Can I see myself in here? And that'll kind of like determine, whether I come back or how often I continue to come back. But yeah, those are really my tips, is to just kind of like look around and see what the admin is doing to welcome people. And that'll usually tell you the best place to start or the best place to navigate that particular group.
Yeah. And you can set, I think notifications are like Facebook decides what you get notified on.
Yeah.
That's the default. Or you can say all notifications. And when I'm in a group and I don't want to miss anything, I always set it to all notifications. You could always turn it off. It gets too annoying.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think a lot of people don't know is that you can click once. So if you comment on a post, then you get notified every time there's a new comment on the post. And sometimes you just want to say something that, and then you're going to move on. It's like, you don't want to stay in that. And so you keep getting notified. You can actually turn off notifications for that specific post. So future comments, you don't get notified on. So there's a lot of little things that are ways that can make the experience of a Facebook group better.
Yeah, one of my best like hacks for this, because I honestly don't really trust Facebook's notification system at all, because I feel like sometimes I miss stuff and then sometimes I'm notified of stuff I don't need. Even if I turn on notifications for a specific group or pin it, you can pin 10 groups on the side. None of that I have found to really be like the game changer for me. But what I did is I created a bookmarks folder in my Explorer tab, or if you use Safari, you know, how you can bookmark a web page.
Mhm.
So I created a specific folder and it's called like Facebook groups for networking. So if you're just doing this for pleasure, it could be like mom Facebook groups, skincare Facebook groups.
Mhm.
And that way I know.
Menopause Facebook groups. There's good information in those.
Yes. So bookmark, not just
Yeah.
Facebook, bookmark that Facebook group. And that way, every day when I get that like urge to network or to go into my favorite groups, I'm going to my bookmarks tab. And it's so much cleaner and so much more organized than trying to sit at Facebook and be like, what business group was it that I was having that conversation in last week that was so good? And I can't remember the name or whatever. They're all right there in my bookmarks tab. So I have them organized for like course Facebook groups, networking Facebook groups, groups that I run. I have a whole freaking folder for James's group because I'm in like 6 James Wedmore groups. Like,
everyone he runs. But so I'm in a podcasting Facebook group that is so good. Good. I always get good stuff. Kajabi. So I use Kajabi as my main platform for my email and stuff like that. And the Kajabi group is, and now I don't get all notifications for that, but it is a wealth of information. And I often will go in there and like, if I have a question, I'll go in there and I'll search on a topic, which is really good thing to do if you don't want to get all the notifications from a group. So the other thing that I want to ask is you can ask questions. So as a Facebook group moderator owner, first of all, you can have somebody who's like admin who helps you in your groups. So if you have a really large group, somebody can like help you, engage or whatever you need to do in there. But like, what would you recommend if you ask questions? Like if somebody comes in, you can, it's not like mandatory, but you can ask questions. So one of the things that when I was managing Facebook groups, I would ask for their email address. So if I didn't have their email address, I could add them to my email system and they could get my weekly newsletter. What else?
Yeah. So the questions to enter. Yeah. So you have 3, and I always recommend quick, easy to answer, but something that will tell you a little bit about them. Maybe how they found you, if that's important to you. Absolutely collecting the email address. So I just drop my freebie there and let them know, like, have you downloaded the free guide yet? We'll be talking a lot about that in the group. Those are, really great ones, but it really depends on the group and their group specific goals. But I do recommend having those questions turned on because you want to like kind of protect the energy of your group and you want your ideal people in there. And then they just started reminding people when they don't answer the questions. So if someone tries to join and they haven't answered the questions, I'll let them sit for a little bit and Facebook will remind them to answer the questions. But great. I usually let them in either way, as long as they don't look, spammy, but there's so much opportunity in using those questions as people enter for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And you can also set rules, specific rules. I think it gives you like a template of rules, which are just general, great, no self-marketing, no hate speech, like any, no complaining. This is a positive space. So it's really good to set expectations of the group that you want to have as well. So I love that. Like the podcasting group is a great place to connect with other podcasters, but you're only allowed to share your link for your podcast on Wednesdays or something. I think.
Yeah, like certain
which
threads.
Is great. Yeah.
And a lot of people do, kind of have like they run a really tight ship, and I fall somewhere in between because I'm just, I think there's a freeing feeling when you find a Facebook group that doesn't have all these like constraints and parameters. Like I find that groups that have really strict rules like that, like I just don't even end up engaging because I'm like, well, now it's the Wednesday post and everyone's putting their podcast link, but nobody's actually really scrolling through it and interacting. Right. So I fall somewhere in between with that. I think the whole like, Motivation Monday and, whatever Tuesday, I think that stuff worked for a little while, but I think now people really enjoy almost like the wild, wild west where they can just jump in and ask a question. And of course, we don't want people to self-promote, but I think, most of the time if you have good quality, you're attracting good quality members in your group, they're going to mirror your behavior. So because I'm not constantly self-promoting, they're not jumping in, self-promoting. I think that they are really going to kind of mimic what we do, and then what our best members are doing as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I always like to ask my guests, like, what do you think exemplifies living a not your average life? Like what and how do you exemplify that? Like, what does that mean to you when I say not your average lives? And
yeah, my mind automatically just goes to like my entrepreneur spirit and my lifestyle, where sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I literally just create opportunity and money like out of thin air. Like, to try to describe to somebody what I do, it's crazy, right? Like, we're our own little like culture. But when I have those days where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm not accomplishing much or not getting much done, I'm like, wait, I actually just made all this money for my family. And I was the one that did it, right? Like, no one was like, here's your workbook, here's your check sheet, here's your to-do list. So it always makes me feel different than the rest of society in a great way. But then sometimes when we don't have our people, right, it's like, oh man, like, it's so weird now going out to lunch with like corporate America 9-to-5ers and trying to, fit in. There's a struggle there too, but I think that definitely is what makes me not average.
Yeah. You're, I loved that. Create opportunity out of thin air. I wrote it down. Yeah. But, you're a little bit younger than most of my guests, but I thought the topic was really interesting. And so, you have a 8, 5, and 2-year-old, you said?
8, 5, and 2-year-old, but I am 39, Lori. I am about 40. So I'm a little closer than you think.
Oh, my oldest daughter's 39. So she's gonna be 40 on her next birthday. I can't believe I have a 40-year-old daughter. But anyways, so do you have experience in a corporate world environment?
So my first job out of college was like a 9-to-5. Second job was a 9-to-5. And then I kind of started coaching and teaching, which I don't consider teaching like corporate America, but teaching is its own kind of like corporate entity. And then
when I quit, you're a teacher. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when I quit teaching, is when I started being a full-time entrepreneur. And that was like 8 or 9 years ago, I guess.
Yeah. Teachers make great. I mean, it's a great, like, online courses, group coaching, I think is a really good match for teachers, but the whole marketing aspect is a little like daunting. So you have to be ready and willing to kind of go there and learn that as a skill. So tell me, we didn't talk about, I don't think, your podcast. And so I just want people to know where they can find you. And if they want help building and connecting with an audience in a Facebook group, like, where would they go to do that? And we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, awesome. So I have a podcast called the Messy Success Podcast. It's a couple of years old now, but that is really the behind the scenes. So I'm sharing like my personal life. I'm getting ready to share the story of us adopting our dog, but it's very behind the scenes of my business, real time, what I'm working on, the true like messy version, fully transparent. It's a really, really fun podcast. I bring on guests every now and then. But the best way to find me as far as Facebook groups is just the Facebook group called the Community Builder. And it's a group about groups, and I show up there every week and we just talk about what's going on with people's groups, how to grow them, how to get them more engaged, questions that people are having. If you posted something that got no engagement, you can share that and I'll be able to tell you exactly why it didn't get engagement. But yeah, those are the two best places to find me. I'm also on Instagram at elizabeth.henson, and my website is just elizabethhenson.co. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, what is your puppy's name? Because
Luna Ray.
Luna Ray. She adopted a puppy, and such a great thing to do. And so she's like a new mom all over again. But
we're 4 weeks in, and it's my fourth child. And the best thing about her though is she does not wake me up in the morning. This dog will sleep.
Aww.
She does not get out of bed until I get out of bed. And I'm like, thank gosh, like, you'll always have that going for you, dog, because she has been something else.
Oh, she's got a happy life now to look forward to. That's awesome.
Yeah,
all right. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and
I'm so glad that we could do this. It was so good to see you.
Yeah, so good to see you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.